Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I'm Tony DeQuano.
So, Tony, what are we doing today?
We're switching up a bit. We're going into a classic family film in the realm of the summer blockbuster. Going to Pixar with Finding Nemo. A lot of Pixar movies are kind of more those like Thanksgiving releases.
Nemo.
Finding Nemo was a Memorial Day release. So it's a summer blockbuster.
Yep, it's a good movie, too.
It's a very good movie. I loved it.
I mean, Pixar has a great track record for making movies that the whole family can enjoy.
Yes. Well, it's interesting because, Toy Story was their first feature-length movie, right? Which would have been 95.
Which was also the first feature-length CGI movie.
Yes, it was. We were both over 10 by that point, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of data.
Yeah.
So, kind of outside what would typically be thought of as like the demographic for kind of animated movies. Even though we were kind of right in that new golden era of Disney when you had like Lion King and Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid, right? And then Pixar comes along, Toy Story. But all those movies wildly popular for a good reason because they were really, really good.
Yeah.
Like the Toy Story movies, right? Bugs Life, right? Then Monsters, Inc. And then 2003 comes along. And here's a story about a fish looking for his son.
Yep, with the help of another fish who forgets a lot.
And they meet a whole other cast of characters.
Which are also mostly fish.
Mostly fish. There is a bird, a pelican.
Mm-hmm.
There are other supporting birds throughout. And, we get a whale. A whale's not a fish. A whale is a mammal.
Yes, a whale is a mammal. And there's some, jellyfish and squids and octopi, or octopuses.
There's a starfish.
Whatever the plural for octopus is.
Octopi.
Is it? Because I've heard it's octopi and I've heard it's octopuses.
Did you know, so thinking about plurals, right? So fish, right? So this is actually important, right? Because there's a bunch of fishes in this movie because they are multiple species. But if you're going within the same species, say clownfish, it's a school of clownfish. Then you just say fish. But if you got the anglerfish, clownfish, other species, right? A whole bunch of them, you're going to say fishes.
Very interesting.
English is a weird language.
Yes, it is. I can definitely see how it's one of the hardest languages to learn if you're not a native English speaker.
Yes. So, but what's interesting about Nemo, I remember like the trailer to a certain degree, and of course by that point I'm trusting Pixar to make good movies, and it's different in that like Monsters Inc. kind of presents this whole other kind of creative world of monsters. It's like a separate dimension, right?
Yeah.
But they also have businesses and schools, and restaurants, hotels, a whole society. Whereas like the fish here, like they don't, I mean, obviously they can speak and interact with each other, but it's not as fully realized world, right?
I mean, they do have school.
They do have school, yes. But it's not quite the same as kind of a forgotten DreamWorks movie from that time called Shark Tale.
Yeah.
Which is kind of more like the Monsters, Inc. type of world for fish. So, yeah, no, but it's a terrific movie, and I actually kind of remember this. I was working an internship in Washington, D.C., and just reading reviews of it, and like, oh, yeah, it's settled. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to go see it. And went to see it, opening weekend. I don't think it was Friday, the opening night, probably the next night. But I loved it, and it's been great. It's the name of the show, my kids now, because when I saw it, I was in college.
Yeah.
And, my kids have loved it because there's so much from kids that love with this movie as well.
Yeah, when I saw it in the theater also. I saw it because it was, 03 was the year I graduated high school. And
right, yeah, it was right before you graduated.
So it was the night of project graduation, the graduation party put on by the school for all of the graduates. And so, that didn't start until later at night. So earlier in the evening, I went and I saw Finding Nemo before going and spending all night at school partying. But yeah, I of all of the Pixar movies that I've seen in the theater, that one's probably the most memorable just because of what was going on that day.
I would believe it, yeah.
Like, I remember where I was sitting in the theater. I was like up in the back right corner where, the seats at the Regal, where the seats would, the steps would go right up into that seat in the corner.
Yeah.
I was sitting up in that corner seat there watching the movie.
It's an easy one to remember, too. Just the animation is so crisp on it.
It really is.
Even 20 years ago. And now with the even more enhanced, 4K, it's even crisper. Which is it's perfect for this underwater world. And then part of it is aquarium world as well, right?
Yeah.
Because we have the second setting, which is within the dentist office, which is brilliant. A dentist office. I
It
love that's a
is. Yeah.
dentist office.
Yeah. Because every dentist office has an aquarium. Every dentist office that I've ever been to, at least, has an aquarium.
Not my dentist. No, no. It's weird. My dentist is like a little like house in a neighborhood.
Huh.
No aquarium.
Interesting. Hmm. Maybe. Are you sure he's a real dentist?
I think so.
Well, maybe you need to tell him to get an aquarium.
Needs to get into scuba diving as a hobby.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Taking pictures of terrified fish.
Yeah.
Just grabbing one that's, instead of dropping it off with all these other fish are right over there.
Yep.
Taking them. What a monster. It's weird because the dentist does not seem like the most intelligent dude in the world.
No.
And there's still a lot of schooling to be a dentist.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be a pretty intelligent person to be a dentist.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Now, what I don't understand, speaking of the dentist, he's billed as the dentist in the movie, not P. Sherman.
No. Well, remember, so he was on that boat with another diver.
Yeah.
So maybe that was he was borrowing his goggles.
It could have been, yeah, that is a good point.
Because he's too cheap to get his own. Or he's knocked them off before into the ocean, and so he had to borrow a pair.
Or maybe they belonged to just somebody else, and it was just a loaner pair that somebody else had left on the boat.
Yeah.
So for all Marlon and Dory knew, the dentist wasn't even in Sydney.
Luckily, the dentist. Otherwise, they would have traveled a long way for nothing.
Yeah. Before we get into it, as we usually say before going into our discussions, spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about the entire movie, beginning, middle, and end. So if you have not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, pause the podcast, watch the movie, come back and listen. If you have seen the movie or you just don't mind spoilers, then keep on listening.
So I love how the movie starts because in some ways it's like almost classic Disney.
It is. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Classic Disney animation.
Finding a way to scar children.
Yes.
Like having a mother murdered.
But not in this case, it's not just the mother, but it's also all 400 of the siblings.
It starts peaceful and serene. Just two lovely clownfish in love.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Right?
And then, they recently moved in to as yes, later call it at the edge of the drop off, from the edge of the Great Barrier Reef, right?
Yes.
And then they're flirting along, right? You have Marlin and Coral.
Yep. The clownfish.
So, Coral played by Elizabeth Perkins.
Yes, who wasn't big.
Wasn't big. I also always remember her from the Flintstones.
Yes, that too. She was Wilma.
And then I guess later, Weeds would be like another.
Yeah.
And kind of the great stroke of this, because this is around the time when Disney, like 10 years before, cast Robin Williams to play Genie.
Yeah.
But for a while there, like most voice actors for these major Disney movies, wasn't necessarily like big name actors, right? It was even voices within this as animators that work on the movie.
Yeah.
Voicing main characters. But even within this, like Albert Brooks plays Marlin. Right?
Yeah.
Which, Albert Brooks is kind of known. It's not like he's famous, like, broadcast news. And, he's kind of what people at one time would call him like a West Coast Woody Allen, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, an neurotic type of guy in a lot of his movies. And he plays a very neurotic character.
Yeah.
But no, we haven't gotten her character yet. But like Ellen DeGeneres would have been one of the main.
Yeah, she was probably the biggest name in this movie.
Outside of some of the kind of main voices that Pixar uses, like Brad Garrett.
John Ratzenberger has a small
part
in this one.
Yeah.
Just like in most other Pixar movies. I think there's only like one or two Pixar movies that John Ratzenberger is not in.
Yeah, but then he also had I guess William Dafoe. Like this is before he really started around the time he started taking off with his second career.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, I guess, kind of helped that. Spider-Man was just
Yeah, it was a year before that.
But he was that guy from Platoon. a bunch of indie movies in between. So, but yeah, so Coral and Marlin, they're flirting, they're going around, and all of a sudden, Coral spots a barracuda. Right, all the other fish have hidden.
Yep,
right?
because all the other fish in the area were out, enjoying the day, and then they notice that all the other fish have just disappeared. And they look over, and there's a barracuda that's just staring them down. And there's a little hole in the coral beneath them where all their babies are, all their eggs. They got about 400 eggs down there.
They talked before that, Marlin was concerned that, what if they don't like me?
Mm-hmm.
And, she's on there's over 400 eggs. One of them bound to like you. Like, what do we call them? And it's like, well, this half will
be Marlin Jr. This half we'll call Coral Jr. And Coral says she likes the name Nemo. He's like, okay, fine. We'll name one Nemo. The rest of them will be Marlin Jr. Right. But then, they see the barracuda, and he's eyeing down the eggs, right? He's like, this is a good bunch. Mm-hmm.
This is what's interesting. So, like, I remember when I first showed Charles this, he was probably like 4, and I kind of fast forward through this scene because I was concerned about what he might think about it. Right? And we rewatched it, and I did not fast forward for Theodore.
That's because he's your second kid.
It's like, let's see how he does with it.
Oh, and now you just traumatize him for life.
And he did fine. Right? And, it gets intense because, like, she goes down to save the eggs, and then he kind of tries to swim towards the barracuda, and, you see the jaws snapping, and he moves out, and then he gets hit by the tail and gets kind of slammed into, like, the rocks.
And he gets knocked out.
Right? Yep. He wakes up. He's, kind of concussed. He's waking back up, and, and he can't see anything, and he goes down and can't find any of the eggs. He can't find Coral. And then finally he sees the one little egg left, survived, and has a little crack down the egg, and the little fish in there. And he's like, this is the moment that he's like, okay, this is Disney trying to pour on those waterworks, right? He's like,
trying to tug on those heartstrings.
He's like, it's okay, Daddy's here. Daddy's got you.
I'll never let anything happen to you, Nemo.
And it goes into the beautiful music.
Now, they never actually showed Coral or the eggs getting eaten by the barracuda. So they could have just left. She may have just left Marlin and took the kids with her.
That's right.
I mean, you don't know.
It's possible. Maybe she didn't like his response to it. And it's like, you know what? Screw this guy.
Yeah. I'm going to go find another clownfish to clown around with.
On the other end of the Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah. Why is it got to be the Great Barrier Reef? Why not just go like to the South China Sea or, head over to the Atlantic, see how those fish are.
Yeah. So it's possible. Could have gotten onto the EAC
and
just said, see you later.
Yep. Get it on that EAC, see you later.
So, anyway. We get back into it, and then all of a sudden,
But no, it's pretty clear that they're dead. That Coral and the eggs have been eaten.
They're lunch. They were lunch. We cut back. Now we're in the middle of the reef. It's a lot safer being on the drop off. We're in the back of another anatomy, and then you're first day of school.
Yep. Nemo's all excited to go to school because fish swim in schools. So yeah.
So they go to school.
Yeah.
There is also literal schools of fish later.
Yes, there's a literal school of fish that we'll get to.
Nemo, by the way, is voiced by Alexander Gould, also
yes.
in Weeds.
Yes.
So, but at that time he would have been like what? Probably. Sounds like a kid, like probably 8 years old.
Yeah, he's like I think like 8 or 9 years old. Yeah.
I know sometimes they like to get female voice actors to do
play
kids,
kids, yeah. But this time they actually got a little boy to
like
be a boy.
They get through the routine. And, Marlin, he's a dad, and he's obviously he's neurotic to begin with, and now he's a single father trying to protect his son. So he gets some understand the trepidation of his son going to school for the first time.
And also Nemo has a disability. He has a small fin.
Yes.
They call it his lucky fin.
When the egg cracked, the it stunted the development of the one fin. It's not fully, it's got one the regular fin and then a lucky fin, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
How's your lucky fin? Right? Lucky, right? And so, they're going off, and they're again, this is where the animation is just awesome. Just going through the reef, and you're seeing all the little sea creatures and the coral. And it's awesome. And they get there, and there's a bunch of kids waiting for the teacher. And there's the other dads there, and they're joking around, right? You got a little seahorse, got another fish, and like a little kind of small
squid,
octopus
kind of
squid thingy, right? Their kids are there, and they're joking because they know they don't really leave their house very often.
Yeah.
And then the one's like, "You're a clownfish, aren't you? Why don't you tell me a joke?"
Yeah. And then, Marlon tries to explain, well, that's actually a common thing. It's a common misconception that clownfish are funny.
Like it's some type of insult.
And he's like, well, I do actually know one joke.
See, there's a mollusk and a sea cucumber.
And they're walking. Well, I know they're not actually walking, but I know sea cucumbers don't actually talk, but in jokes, everybody talks. So,
mind you, we're in the movie where fish are literally talking.
Yes. So he completely butchers the joke.
And then this big manta ray comes in, right? He's the teacher, right? And then he glides over them and he's like, well, I wonder where my class is gone, right?
Yeah, all the kids are hiding under him.
And then Nemo thinks this is really cool, and he's getting this chance to see all the other kids, and he's just doing what kids want to do, right?
Mr. Ray is the teacher, and he's a stingray, not a manta ray. But
yes, he is Mr. Ray's voice. I was trying to look at that.
That is Bob Peterson does the voice of Mr. Ray.
Bob Peterson, yeah. And again, yeah, and he does a bunch of voices in other Pixar movies, Roz and Monsters Inc. He was Doug and Up, but he's written a lot of the movies for Pixar. So he's a good example of someone that's
a frequent collaborator.
Yeah, he's actually one of the writers on he was a writer on Finding Nemo. So.
Yes, he was.
So it's a good example that it's not all just actors. They get the talent from a variety of places.
And I mean, Andrew Stanton was also a writer on Finding Nemo, and he was the voice of Crush, the turtle that we meet later.
Yes. So then Marlon finds out that they're going to go to the drop off. Now this is where he gets scared, right?
Yeah, because this is where all of Nemo's siblings and his mother got brutally murdered.
By a bastard barracuda.
They got turned into barracuda poo.
Right? And then he's starting to swim off. He's like, why don't we just chop him up and roll him up and throw him and fry him up or whatever,
Yeah.
And the other guys are like, hey, they'll be perfectly safe. Don't be calm. Be calm. He's like, don't panic. You be calm. And he swims off. He's like, don't tell me to be calm, pony boy. And now he has a joke.
Yes, now he has a joke.
I love how the sequel was like, pony boy. It's like, and then for a clownfish, he's really not that funny.
Yep.
Bummer. Meanwhile, so the school, they get there, and then Mr. Ray, he's discovered a little other ecosystem of near drop off, and some of the kids are bored with it, and they swim off, and Nemo sees them.
The kids of the three other fish that Marlon was talking to. So
one
a little seahorse, a little squid, and a little other fish.
I love the one's like, I'm obnoxious.
Yeah. The seahorse is H2O.
H2O intolerant.
It's H2O intolerant.
And then the little squid,
squid has one shorter tentacle than the rest of them.
But you can't really see it when
especially when it's squashed like this.
I love when they get to the drop off though, and they kind of push her out there. And she inks. She's like, you guys made me ink. But they're looking out there, it's a little ways off. No, it's not far, but it's not close.
Yeah, there's a boat.
And they're like, oh, it's talking about some other kid was telling them about I think it's called a butt.
Yep, it's a butt.
That's a pretty big butt.
That is a big butt.
And that's when Sir Mix-a-Lot just
Yes,
sort of
Sir Mix-a-Lot
down.
shows up and starts singing. I like big butts and I cannot lie.
No, he's not in this movie, sadly.
He should be. He should have been in that scene.
He could have voiced the boat.
He could have voiced the butt. Or he could have been one of the people on the butt.
And they start trying to dare each other to go touch the butt. And then Marlon shows up.
Well, they're not really daring each other to go touch the butt. They're daring each other to get closer to the butt than each of them have gotten.
Yes, that's yeah. Like, oh, I'm gonna go touch the butt. Right? I've seen he can kind of get the furthest. And I don't think anyone in the means did really go that far.
I mean, they're talking about touching the butt, but they don't actually like intend to go touch the butt.
Well, yeah. That is until Marlon shows up, and
so they're egging Nemo on to go out and see if he can get farther than they did, and he doesn't want to. And that's when Marlon shows up. He sees the other fish out there and thinks that Nemo's going to go out there too.
He's like, oh, I'm not sure, my dad, and then Marlon shows up and, he's angry. He's like, you're lucky I don't tell your parents. He kind of starts yelling at Nemo. And
even though Nemo wasn't going to go out there.
He was too scared.
Mm-hmm. Because, Marlon's one of those, he's a helicopter parent.
Yeah.
Which, it's understandably so. He lost his wife and all of his other kids to a barracuda.
In front of his eyes.
In front of his eyes.
I know he's knocked out, but he was trying to save him, and then... Yeah.
So, it's understandable that he's a severe helicopter parent.
He experienced a massive trauma.
So, he doesn't want anything to happen to Nemo.
He's lucky, he's not smoking a pack a day muttering about Nom.
Yeah, or whatever the barracuda equivalent to Nom is.
Anyhow, so that's when Mr. Ray shows back up and he sees the fight and he's like, "Oh, there's nothing to see here." He's trying to get the kids to
occupy the kids elsewhere. In the meantime, trying to talk to Marlon and help diffuse the situation.
Like, he's got a bad fin. He got a big school. It'd be easy for one of them to get off. Like I just don't think he's ready for school yet.
Meanwhile, Nemo has snuck away and he's swimming toward the butt.
Yep.
And
there's one of the ones that's like, oh, Nemo's running. Nemo's swimming out to sea. And everyone's like, oh.
So Marlon starts calling out to him, trying to get him to turn around, and he's not doing it. He just keeps on swimming closer and closer to that butt, and then he gets up to it, reaches out his fin, and touches the butt. And then one of the kids says, "He touched the butt."
And, oh my gosh! Look at that!
Look at her butt. She looks like one of those rap guys' girlfriends.
He starts swimming back, right? And everything seems fine. All of a sudden, this big base with scuba gear comes up between Nemo and the drop off. Everyone gets scared, and Ray, he hides the kids, right? This guy at the scuba, he's got a little baggie, and he's trying to.
And he scoops Nemo up in the bag, and
right.
Marlon sees all this, and he starts swimming out there trying to.
Comes up, right, and he takes a picture of Nemo kind of
Marlon
against some of the coral. Yeah, sorry, Marlon.
And the flash on the camera kind of temporarily blinds.
Disorients him. Right.
Disorients Marlon, and
the other guys go up. They get on the boat, and then they're sitting, and it's a power boat. It's got a motor, right? They start the motor back up, and then
just as Marlon is making it to the boat,
the propeller starts going up and blows him back, right? So that disorients him even further, right?
And by the time he's
trying to catch up with it, but obviously he's a clownfish
and
trying to catch up with a boat.
Yeah.
Motorboat. It's not a yacht, it's a regular motorboat, right?
It's a fishing boat.
Yeah, right. It's not going to go extremely fast, but a lot faster than a clownfish.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, but one of the guys, they put Nemo into a little cooler, right? And then he sits there, and then he knocks his goggles down. And now, Marlon, he's out in open sea, and he's countering other fish. He's
asking if they've seen a boat going anywhere.
Anyone seen the boat, and some of them are grumpy, some are not. Right?
And then this blue fish runs into him.
She's like, "Watch out!"
Slams into him.
She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Asked her if she's seen a boat, and she's like, "Yes, I just saw a boat a few minutes ago. It went this way.
It went this way."
And this, of course, is Dory, voiced by Ellen DeGeneres.
By the way, it's a blue tang. By the way,
yes, it's a blue tang.
And yes, voiced by Ellen DeGeneres. And and then he starts following her, going through, and all of a sudden she looks behind him. She looks suspicious about this fish that is following her.
She starts swimming faster and trying to make sudden turns around stuff, and he just keeps on staying right behind her. And all of a sudden she stops, turns around, and asks him why he's following her. And so he explains it because you're helping me find a boat. She's like, "Oh, I saw a boat a few minutes ago. It went this way."
He's like, wait, what? Is this some type of joke?
Turns out Dory has, just like our friend Leonard in Memento, has short-term memory loss. So she forgets things a few seconds after experiencing them.
She's like, I think it was with my family. Where are they? Which, if you've seen the sequel, Finding Dory, she's been missing them for a long time, actually. But she's been getting fine, for a while, anyway. But then she offers, to help them. But, again, now they're actually out in open water. And, before just about as they're going to start, they're going the direction of where the boat came from. Big, great white shark shows up.
Named Bruce.
Which we talked about
in the Jaws episode.
Jaws. He is named after the mechanical shark from Jaws. He's like, "Hello." And of course, they're scared. Well, Borland's scared. And Dory, she's ever the optimist.
Yep.
He's like, "Oh, I get why you're scared. Why trust a shark?" And he snaps at them. So he's like, "Oh, but we're having a party. You can come with me." He's like, "Oh, I insist." Right? They're just trying to escape, and obviously it's way too difficult to escape from Great White. Barry Humphries, by the way, is Bruce.
Yes.
And Dory's like, she's excited to go to a party. He's saying like, "Yeah, we're having a get together with a couple of my friends."
Yeah, so they take them, and it's two more sharks, Anchor and Chum. So you got Bruce, Anchor, and Chum.
One of them, you have a hammerhead and a mako.
Yeah. So Great White, a hammerhead, and a mako.
And as they're approaching the party, she's like, "It is a party. There's balloons." No, it's just a bunch of water mines.
Yeah, the balloons are sea mines.
She's like, "Don't want to get too close to those balloons." It's important because it will be
it comes into play.
They come into this story later. And then we find out that the three sharks have formed, Shark Eater, Fish Eaters Anonymous?
Something like that, yeah. Basically AA for eating fish. Fish are friends, not food.
It's like, each, the purpose of that meeting was that they each had to bring a fish friend.
Yeah.
But Chum was the
Chum was the
right?
mako, wasn't it? Yeah, I think.
Yeah, Anchor was the
Anchor was the hammerhead.
But, so Chum accidentally ate his fish.
Mm-hmm.
And Anchor's fish sees this, and he's scared. Obviously, he's a little fish, and he's shaken, and he takes the opportunity to swim away. And Bruce is like, "Well, I have two friends. You can have one of them."
Hey, you can have one of my friends.
Nemo to be chums for a little chum for little chum. It's a typical AA or NA type of meeting. It's like you have to say your name. It's like it's been this long since I've had a fish.
And then, so after Bruce is done talking, after he's done up there presenting,
Dory wants to go.
Then it's Dory's turn. She wants to go, and
like, "I'm Dory. Hi, Dory.
I don't think I've ever eaten a fish. Good for you, Dory.
Inspiration to us all." And then they make Nemo go, and Nemo's like, I don't want to go.
They make Marlin go.
I'm going to keep doing this. They make Marlin go, and Marlin, like, "I don't want to do this." And they make him go. They're like, "Denial."
Yeah.
And then they hear he's a clownfish. And they're like, "Tell us a joke."
Yeah. And so then he tries to tell the joke again that he knows, and he starts butchering again, and then
But then
he
he sees
sees
the mask.
yes, the goggles from the diver. And when punchline could happen in the joke, he says Nemo and swims out toward the goggles, and all the sharks think that that's supposed to be the punchline, and so they're trying to figure out why it's funny.
Yeah, he's like, for a clownfish, he's not really funny. It's like, no, it's my son's name. And then it kind of gets into the story, and he's like, humans. It's like, probably American.
Yeah, probably American. Because the Great Barrier Reef, of course, is off the coast of Australia.
Eric Bana, by the way,
yes,
voices Anchor. Who by the time at that time, like I guess he'd been Black Hawk Down at that point, and was about to be in Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he was a super famous actor,
but he's Australian.
Even now, he's Australian. Not that he was ever like an A-lister, ever got to be an A-lister, but a notable name.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, Australian. So, and then they see that, and then he accidentally, as they're trying to, how is it that he hits Dory with the goggles, with the strap?
So I'm trying to remember. I just watched the movie, and I
watched it like last week. I don't know.
I watched it tonight. I watched it like right before we recorded this.
It's like why
can't I remember why Dory got
and it hits her like in the nose, right?
Yeah,
like,
and she starts getting a little nosebleed.
Like, oh, am I bleeding? And you see a little stream of blood going up, and it hits Bruce's nostrils.
And then Bruce
goes
crazy trying to eat some fish.
I'm having fish tonight.
While Anchor and Chum are trying to stop him.
And we kind of forgot this part. Like we talked about the sea mines, right? But there's also like an old sunken submarine.
Yes,
where they're having
sunken submarine.
So they're trying to hold off Bruce, so he doesn't. He sticks true to his pledge not to eat fish, right? And
yeah, but now that he smelled blood, he's determined to eat fish tonight.
They're trying to swim away, and they're trying to keep they want to keep the goggles as well because there's an address on them there, right? And I guess that was part of it. Is like while they're doing this, Dory discovers she knows how to read somehow.
Yes, because they need to find somebody that can read what's written on the goggles. And when they're trying to get away from the sharks, or when they're trying to get away from Bruce, they see a hatch on the submarine that says escape. And Dory says, escape. That's spelled just like escape.
I can read.
And Marlon's like, you can read.
Anyway.
Yeah, so he's trying to get her to read the goggles, but they're trying to escape from Bruce.
They end up going into one of the torpedo tubes.
Yes, where there's a torpedo in the tube. And so they can't get very far in there. And Bruce...
And obviously, Bruce is way too big for that, but he keeps pounding into it, right? Meanwhile, the other fish was trying to apologize for his behavior.
Yeah.
And then, so they finally, why does this happen, right? The torpedo keeps coming dislodged
keeps inching toward the end of the opening to the torpedo tube.
And and finally, I love the part where he's like, "Here's Brucey," a nice little shining nod.
Yep. Which is not the first Shining reference in a Pixar movie.
No, it's not. And then he gets, finally the torpedo comes loose, and then it gets kind of stuck in his jaws, right? And along with the goggles, and they're able to get the goggles off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he hurls it kind of like a hammer toss. Right? And Chum and Anchor are like, let's see what's happening. He's like, oh no.
Yes, hey.
Right? And he's like, what? And then it taps.
Just barely taps one of the mines. And so the mine explodes, and then it blows up the entire group of mines.
Yes. Over top of this, there are two pelicans that are just
hanging out, just chilling on the surface of the water.
And the bubbles come up.
Just a single bubble comes up behind one of them. And the other one looks at him and is like, really? It turns around and flies away.
What's wrong with that one? He doesn't like farts?
I guess not.
So they really get away, but they all blow up. So I guess it's at that point, right, when they finally kind of switch to the dentist office. Nemo sees his new home, and it's really strange to him because he's in an aquarium.
Yeah.
All these aquarium type things.
mean, he doesn't know what
coral.
they are.
There's, all the kind of standard rocks and kind of like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, one of the first things he sees, he hits a little treasure chest and the little bubbles pop up, right?
Yep, it opens up and lets the bubbles loose, and then it closes again.
And then there's one fish who's like, bubbles!
Yep. And
it's like my bubble.
And that fish is named Bubbles. and it's voiced by Stephen Root.
Yes. Of Office Space fame.
Yes. And Dodgeball. And he was in Get Out also in a more serious role.
Yes. He's also in No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
And then a starfish is like, she plops over. She's like, he likes bubbles.
Yeah, there's a starfish on just stuck to the glass in the aquarium.
So, that Peach, voiced by Allison Janney, then he starts meeting all the other fish, including Brad Garrett.
Yes.
Everybody loves Raymond Fain, but he's like one of the other guys that's in here. It's in almost every Pixar movie. Not everyone, but a lot of them. He does a lot of voices.
He plays Bloat. He plays Bloat, the pufferfish.
There is
Gurgle.
Where's the other ones in here?
And there's Deb, who...
Yeah, Deb was the one I was thinking about.
Deb and her twin sister, Flo, who is really just her reflection.
Hi, how are you? Flo, where are you, Flo?
Then there's a little shrimp named Jacques, a French shrimp.
Because when they find out that he's from the ocean, Jacques is like, they got to decontaminate him.
Yep.
It's like, he is clean.
Because Gurgle is a germaphobe.
Yes.
So
Joe Ranft plays Jacques.
Yeah. So Jacques comes out and he decontaminates Nemo.
He is an animator. So he's done a lot of the animator stuff for Pixar. Okay. But he's voiced a bunch of things as well.
Okay.
Interesting enough, for people that might know this, let's see where he was in this. Yes. It was in The Brave Little Toaster. And did some voices in that.
Nice.
For kids that
nice.
80s kids born in the 80s that if you were you know Brave Little Toaster. If you don't know Brave Little Toaster, please watch The Brave Little Toaster.
Yeah. If you weren't lucky enough to be traumatized by The Brave Little Toaster when you were a kid, be traumatized by it now.
By the way, we talked about like Disney doing that. Like, so The Land Before Time is not a Disney movie.
No, it's not.
It also does a really good job of traumatizing kids.
Yes.
Sharp Tooth! And then, Littlefoots' mom just dying.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What is it with kids' movies and just... you'll never see that in a kids' movie today.
No. And then the last fish we are introduced to is it's after Nemo kind of gets stuck in one of the little toys devices on there, right? Little tube, and he's trying to get out, and they're going to try to get him out, and then you hear this voice, and he's like, "Nobody touch him."
Yeah, well, because earlier in the movie, Nemo got stuck in a sea cucumber,
and he had to get his dad to get them out. So
yeah. And so now he gets stuck in the tube for the filter.
You see a
for the aerator.
Idol come out, and he's like, "Nobody touch him." And it's William Dafoe.
Yes, it's Willem Dafoe, and
named Gil, and Nemo uses the excuse like, "Well, I got a bad fin," and then Gil's like, "Hasn't stopped me," and you can see that
turns and you can see that
he's got a startup fin and side, and you learn that he is also from the ocean, right? Because all the other ones were from like pet stores. You had
one was from eBay.
eBay, which at that time would have been a very funny joke. Because eBay was new.
Yeah, I think it was Peach that was from eBay. Starfish.
Yeah, Peach was from eBay. Yes, so I guess it kind of makes sense. I don't know how many pet stores have starfish.
Yeah,
it seems like that's a special order.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But anyway.
So
Gil insists that Nemo get out of there himself because he needs to learn how to do things himself. He can't have somebody else do everything for him. And so he tells the other fish to back off, let Nemo do it himself. And then he explains to him how to do it. Says you need to alternate between using your tail and your fins until you're loose. And so Nemo does that and he gets out. And I mean, so Gil is introduced as this seemingly, badass fish that just you would think hates everybody.
Yeah. That's how we absolutely introduce it.
But he's really not. He's a badass with a heart of gold.
Part of it's
he takes a liking to Nemo right away.
It's great casting with William Dafoe.
Yeah.
Like at that time, I don't think I would have showed. Yeah, even at that time, I probably would associate William Dafoe for mostly playing kind of villainous characters.
Yeah. You learn right away that Gil is sort of the leader of all the fish in the tank, and, they all respect him, and he treats them well. He's not nearly the villain that you expect him to be.
Right. And then one of the first things is, he's talking, and he's like, I think we need to have an initiation for him, right?
Yeah. I think tonight we welcome Nemo into our group.
Now, was this, we haven't talked about, I'm trying to think about when one of the other characters, who is one of the few non-fish, Nigel, has he shown up yet?
Not yet.
I don't think so. Right? Yeah. Because I think he shows up like the next day.
Yeah. Nigel the Pelican.
Because they talk about how they're going to go ahead and have an initiation for him. But then it cuts back to Marlin, Dory, and now they're in the dark depths of the ocean, right?
Yeah. Because the submarine got, dislodged from where it was.
Yeah.
And started falling down into a trench.
That's right.
And
I forgot about that.
And it got lodged. It started falling on the trench, but then it got lodged across the trench. So it stopped falling, but
that's what
Marlin dropped the goggles, and they went sinking down to the bottom of the trench.
Yeah, so they kept going to get those, and
they're in the dark. They can't see
they're
anything.
swimming around.
And then they see a light.
I can't see. I see a light.
And Dory's like, "Am I dead?" And Marlin's like, "No." Like, then what's that light? And Marlin's like, "I can see it too."
But I feel happy.
Yeah.
So
they start playing with the light.
Thing.
They're like, "I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you, light. I'm gonna get you."
It's like, this is a good feeling. And then behind all of a sudden you see this fish light up. It's an anglerfish, right?
An anglerfish. It's got these giant sharp teeth.
I love the feeling. I was like, good feeling gone.
Yeah, good feeling gone. And so it starts chasing them, and they see the goggles. Well, they're trying to escape the anglerfish.
Yeah, they're down there at the seafloor, right? And they see the goggles.
And so while the anglerfish is chasing Marlin, Dory is trying to read what the goggles say. And so, but the light keeps on moving. So she's like, keep the light still.
Can you move it this way?
So finally, she's able to read it. P. Sherman, 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney.
Yep. And then they're finally able to, but obviously the fish are still trying to get them and eat them, right? And they're able to kind of wedge the goggles on stalagmite there at the bottom there. And the fish's jaws, so he can't get them. Yeah. Like, he's kind of stuck. And they just start taunting him.
They just start taunting him.
No eating here tonight. No eating here tonight.
Yeah, so then they swim out of there. They leave the goggles there because that's what's keeping the anglerfish trapped. But they know what they say. They know what's written on the goggles.
Right. And then she's great. She's excited about it because as it's swimming away, she's continuing to remember it.
Yeah, it's the first thing she's remembered in a long time.
Yep. And then that's when they get back, and then we're back to Nemo and his new friend's dentist office, and he kind of wakes up, and then one of them's like, psst, right? Like Jock, I think, wakes him up.
Yeah, it's all dark.
It's nighttime. And then it's a dentist office, right? So
the lights are off.
It's all the lights are off in the dentist office, and you can see there's a view of downtown Sydney from the one you can see the Opera House, and they're saying Nemo, right? Brad Garrett's character.
Nemo, hoo ha ha.
Right, and they're saying you have to pass this test, right? It's like the ring of fire.
Yep. So Nemo, if you can swim through the ring of fire, then you can be part of our group. And the ring of fire is just there's this little volcano in the middle of the tank that just shoots bubbles up. They just turn on the airflow and bubbles come up out of the top of this volcano. And so he's just got to swim through the bubbles, basically, which he does. And then he's now a member of the tank club.
And they dub him Sharkbait.
Yes, they dub him Sharkbait. Sharkbait, hoo-ha-ha.
And then Gil gets this plan of how they're going to need to block the filter. Well, he doesn't do that.
He doesn't come up with that yet, because the next day,
but the next day,
the dentist comes in,
they wake up, and then what I like is about how they're spectators of the dentist.
Yeah.
They're talking about the different tools he's using. He's like, oh, he's been favoring that one a lot lately. Like, what procedure is going on today?
Yeah. But
like, clearly, heads. I don't know. I couldn't tell you all these dentist tools, but anyway.
But it turns out that in about a week or so, the dentist's niece is coming to visit,
and Nemo's supposed to be a present for his niece, right? Because he comes up and he shows a picture of the niece, like, hello. Darla.
But his finger is blocking what she's holding in her hands in the picture.
Which is a bag with a fish instead of it, because she shakes the bag violently.
Yeah. And ended up killing that fish. That was her gift last year.
Yes. But that's when we're also introduced to Nigel.
Yes, Jeffrey Rush
Pelican.
Voices the Pelican, right? Nigel.
And he's also an expert in what the dentist does.
Yes.
He's their friend, right? And then he apologizes in email, like, I'm sorry if I ever took a bite at you. Fish got to swim, birds got to eat. And then, once they find out Darla's coming, it's like, okay, we got to get this plan together about how we're going to save Nemo.
Yeah, so Gil comes up with this plan.
Just save them, because they don't really want to be stuck in the aquarium either. They want to know what's going on in the ocean. Mm-hmm. And like, it's big blue.
Yeah, so when they find out that Nemo's going to be given to Darla, then Gil's like, we're going to get you out of here, and we're all going to go too. We're all going to get out of here.
His idea, is to get one of the pebbles and block the little,
the filter.
Turbine and the filter to stop the filter, right?
So then algae starts forming all over the thing. And
by hand, the tank. To do that, he's going to take out each fish.
Yeah, put us in little baggies. And we'll roll the bags over to the window and drop down to the ground and then roll across the street and into the ocean.
Brilliant plan. Foolproof, right?
But Nemo is the only one small enough to be able to fit inside the filter to be able to get to that little turbine.
Yes. So that's the plan. So that's going back on in the dentist's office. And again, it really is in Sydney. And then, so I don't think that's the plan. And they kind of go back with Marlin and Dory. So we don't see that first plan. We kind of go back to them after we talk about the anglerfish, and then
so then they're going,
still kind of going around, and then they encounter a bunch of moonfish, right?
Yes.
And Marlin's just being his pessimistic self.
Yep.
And he's thinking he doesn't need Dory anymore at this point. He knows where he wants to go. He's like, it's like, so, what's he saying? It's like, you're basically calling her a distraction.
Yeah.
It's like, and
you're slowing down the progress.
And it's like, you don't want me? And she starts crying. And then this giant school of moonfish come up, right? And it's like, is this man bothering you? And
it's John Ratzenberger's voice.
John Ratzenberger. It's a terrific role for him.
Yeah, it is.
Great voice actor. Great
yes.
voice actor.
Fantastic voice actor.
Great comedian too.
Yeah.
I love it's a whole school of moonfish, right? And I love it. They go in a whole bit about different things, and look how they start aping.
Yeah.
Marlin, like blah 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 blah.
They all form themselves into different shapes and stuff. So they're one of them is they make themselves look like Marlin.
They put a little frowny face on them. And then Dory's he's like, and she's like, no, he's at rough.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Lost his son.
Yeah.
Misnames his son.
Yeah.
He's like Nemo.
Then they ask, we're trying to get to Sydney. And the fish, the school of fish knows where Sydney is. So
right, and they're like, oh, we know Sydney, and then they form the Opera House.
Yeah, the Opera House.
Oh, right. And but then they get specific directions on how they need to find the EAC, right? And then how they get to the EAC, right?
Yeah.
And then they get, they describe another trench, right?
Well, the trench comes in a little bit. And so after
it comes in after they give them directions what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
They say that swim through it.
But that's after. So they give the directions to the EAC, by forming an arrow and pointing toward there.
Different ones start lighting up like a neon sign.
And then Marlin starts heading that way. And then that's when they stop Dory and they're like, when you get to this trench, make sure you swim through it, not over it. And of course, Dory's going to forget. But yeah, she's like, okay, yeah, swim through, not over. And then she catches up with Marlin and they get to that trench. And Marlin wants to swim over it. And Dory's like, I don't remember why. I don't know why, but I have this feeling that we're supposed to swim through it.
Yeah.
And
Marlin, but he's seen it's kind of a dark trench.
Yeah. It looks dark and dangerous.
Dark and dangerous. We should go through it. And go over, not through. And then they don't.
So he tricks Dory. So he's like, hey, what's that shiny object? And she turns around and is like, oh, I don't see anything. And he's like, oh, it's swimming over the trench. Let's go get it.
It's like, oh, okay. And then, they're up there. And then this tiny little jellyfish comes and
Dory starts playing with it.
Dory.
She starts playing with it. She's like, I'm going to call you Squishy, and you will be my Squishy. And then it stings her.
And then it kind of briefly, does a little sting on Marlin.
Yeah, and Marlin comes over and swats it away. And then she's like, well, how did you get stinging? Like, I did.
I live in an anemone. Like, I'm used to this.
She's like, it did sting me. But yeah, I live in an anemone, and I'm used to little stings like that.
He's like, you're lucky it wasn't one bigger one. And all of a sudden, all these other jellyfish.
A bunch of bigger jellyfish show up.
Yeah, it's like a forest of jellyfish. But, of course, Dory's still not that fazed by all this because she starts bouncing on the little bell.
Starts bouncing on the tops of the jellyfish. And then
and Marlin's like, oh, wait, they will not sting you.
Yeah, the tops of them don't sting. So
she's like, okay,
tentacles. Dory, we're going to play a game. Bounce on the top of the jellyfish. The first one to get out of here wins. And so they start racing.
They make the game. They're racing through. And he's like, and it's kind of funny. Like, this is one of the few times that you see Marlin,
starting to have fun.
Having fun and adventure. And he's like, can you eat my... I don't forget his exact...
Eat my bubbles.
Right? My bubbles, right?
Eat my bubbles.
Speeds off, right? And he's about to get through. At the very end, he sees it. And jellyfish comes up at the very end. And he swims right through all the tentacles, right?
Yep. And then he turns around and he's like, come on, Dory. And he doesn't see her anywhere.
Oh, that's what happens first, right?
Yeah.
He gets out, and then he's like, "Come on!" And he doesn't see her. And then he goes back in to find her, and he finds her,
and she's tangled up in the tentacles on one of them.
Yeah, and then he grabs her, and then they almost get out, and that one comes up at the end, right? Because now it's becoming even more of a jumbled mess.
Yeah,
and he can't, and he finally sees one opening, and it comes up, and then
but Dory's unconscious, and he notices that she's injured.
Yes.
He gets stings on her side, and he realizes, from going over this trench, he did this to her. Like, it's his fault that she got tangled up in the jellyfish.
So he passes out after that, and then we cut back into the dentist's office, right? And this is where they first start to execute the plan to block the filter. They get in, and the little pebble comes loose. And the turbine, it starts to come up again, right? And they have to take it off for the one little fake plastic little pieces of coral, right? To try to grab them, and they pull them out, right? And he's scared, and then, Gil's like, okay, we won't do that again. So, and then they have to kind of figure out, okay, well, what's the next plan of attack, essentially? So, when we get back to Marlin and Dory, Marlin
wakes up and he's on the back of a turtle.
He's on the back of a sea turtle, right? And the whole group of sea turtles, right? And he's talking to the guy. His name is Crush.
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah, he's like the Keanu of the sea.
Yes. Perfect example, right? And we kind of forgot to mention this. Like, beginning of the movie, before, as they're preparing for school, and Marlin and Nemo are talking, they're talking about, how old do you think sea turtles are, right?
Yeah.
Like, Tommy, whoever, so they're 150.
They can live to be 100 years old.
Something like that.
Yeah, so they can live to be 100 years old. If I ever meet one,
I'll ask one for you.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. So
he wakes up and and he's talking with Crush, and he's like, oh, we gotta get to I'm trying to get the EAC, right? It's like, oh,
you're in it, man. You're riding.
I see all the turtles, and they're talking, and also he talks about Dory. He's like, oh, Blue, she is sub-level, dude.
So he looks over and Dory is laying down on the back of another turtle. And it looks like she's still unconscious. So he goes down there to her and, is trying to talk to her, but she's not responding. She's got one of her fins over her eyes and he apologizes. And then she perks up and she's like, ready or not, here I come.
All little baby sea turtles.
And she goes swimming out and then she's like, oh, there you are. And all these little baby sea turtles pop up because they all hid in the same place.
Yep. And then they see Marlin. Marlin's like, oh, man. They're having fun. And finally, there's one little turtle that gets pushed out from the group outside the current. And Marlin's like, oh, no. She's like, oh, wait, man. Let's see how he does flying solo. And he comes back in and, and you find out that's his precious son, Squirt. They slap their little flippers together, right?
Yep. And Squirt is voiced by Nicholas Bird. Not sure what all Nicholas Bird has been in, but...
Yeah, no, I'm not familiar.
But yeah, he was born in 1994, so he was, in October of 94, so he was 8 years old when he did this.
He was Rusty
in
Incredibles as the bike boy, Rusty the bike boy, but he has one line like, that was amazing! Yeah, so... Smaller little role, but okay. Yeah. And we said Andrew Stanton as Crush earlier, so... Yeah. And then, Squirt finds out who Marlin is. He's like, Jellyman!
Yeah. Jellyman, did you really swim through a whole group of jellyfish?
That's awesome! Taking on the jellies! It's so totally rock!
So they're riding with the turtles.
And then Crush and Marlin, they have a little man to man, dad to dad type of talk.
Yep.
How do you know when to let go?
Like, well, you don't really know until they know.
And granted, Crush is a lot older than Marlin.
Yes.
He should be wiser.
Should be. But yeah, so Crush is explaining to Marlin how important it is to let kids be kids, let them learn on their own, learn how to do things for themselves, and which is the whole reason why when Squirt got knocked out of the current, Crush is like, let's see how he does on his own. Let's see if he can get back in here with us.
And he did.
Yeah.
So they swim along, and finally they come to their exit towards Sydney.
Yep. So, Crush...
And then Squirt kind of gives them direct, instructions about how to exit out the current properly. And then, they do the whole... Oh, wait, even before that, they come up within the current, particularly, a fast part of the current, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's like... so this is zooming down it, and then Crush is like, Righteous!
Grab some shell, dude!
And finally, Patrick Swayze just swims by. That's what that was.
Yes, Swayze swims by because it is Australia. That's where the storm was. Yeah. So
he somehow was able to evolve. He had some type of mutation after that,
and he could breathe underwater.
He could breathe in the water,
and so he comes up in the current with all the turtles and Crush and Bodie.
Anyway. So, but Squirt helps to give them, instructions of how to exit out of the current. And they do. And they're grateful to saying goodbye. And then Marlin remembers, asks, how old are you?
And so Crush yells back, 150.
So, it's...
I'm 150.
Still young. It's like, Nemo would have loved this. So then you kind of get a montage.
The turtles are telling...
The turtles start talking telling other animals.
Yeah, they start telling other fish and stuff about Marlin and his journey and what he's been through, and he's going to try to find his son Nemo and all this, and then it gets passed on to different fish and then different birds, and then just all the animals in the area seem to hear the story.
Yeah, there's dolphins, and then finally, we get they have some animals that end up in Sydney Harbor, right?
Yeah.
And there's these pelicans talking about it, right? And then you see Nigel, and Nigel has a crab. He's about to eat, and he hears about the story. And he knows about the story because of hearing it from, he knows
from Nemo.
He knows about Nemo getting lost.
Yeah, he knows Nemo's side of it.
he doesn't know all the other stuff in between yet.
No.
So he throws off the crab and he's like trying to tell tell me all about this. So he kind of gets the story. And the crab, there's these seagulls that are trying to get the crab, Nigel.
Mine.
Like, mine. And they now that they see that the crab's free, but the crab he gives a little move and jumps back in the water. Anyway. And then so Nigel's excited, and he starts flying back off to the dentist's office. This time the window is closed.
Yeah. He slams into the window.
Because earlier the other time when he was talking with the fish earlier, the dentist was like, no, my fish. Right? And then, they open the window up, and he sees the procedure, and he's like, oh no, I got to talk to him about Marlin. And he's telling the whole story, and then he's like, took on a shark? That can't be my dad.
Yeah.
He's like, no, what was his name? Some type of sport fish.
Yeah, some type of sport fish.
This is like Marlin, and then like, oh, Marlin.
It's like Marlin, yeah, right? That's it. It's Marlin.
Like he took on a shark. I heard he took on 3.
Yeah.
Right, and he's coming through, and he's headed here right now, right? And everyone's excited that they don't see Nemo, and it's because Nemo has swum back up into the filter,
and he successfully wedged the pebble in there, and
wedges the pebble, and he's able to swim back out. And they're like, "That's awesome, right?" And it's like, "Okay, we gotta make this tank as dirty as possible."
We got 48 hours before Darla gets here, so we gotta make this tank as dirty as possible before then.
They tell Jock not to clean.
Yeah.
He's like, "We."
So the tank gets filthy.
Yeah. I love Brad Garrett. He's like, he belches and just this disgusting little bubble comes up. And of course, Bubble's like, do you realize we're swimming in our own?
Yeah, Gurgle. Gurgle.
Sorry, yes.
Do you realize we're swimming in our own filth?
I love how the dentist sees it, right? And he's like, "Oh, what's going on here?" He reaches down, gets a bunch off the thing, looks at it, wipes it down the cloth of his patient. It's like, make sure my schedule's clear in the morning. I need to clean the tank before Darla gets here. So, that's going back on to the dentist's office, and then you get Marlin and Dory. They're getting set back to go again to the open ocean, and they're like, it's like they are despite the adventure, like, all right, P. Sherman, 42 while away, Sydney. They're going off, and all of a sudden, they don't see a whole lot, and Marlin's like, I've seen this speck before.
Yeah. We're going around in circles.
Because you can recognize the exact speck.
Yeah.
And they're looking around, and then Dory's like, oh, look, what's that? Marlin's like, how about we ask for directions? And he's like, no. It's like, what is it with men and asking for directions? He's like, no. It's like big shadowy fish that we don't know in the open ocean. There's a lot that could go wrong. And then they come close to see it's a whale. It's like, oh, it's a whale, right? She's like, oh, he's trying to speak to it, right? He's like,
yeah,
he can't understand
she swears
you.
that she speaks whale. So she just starts making these noises.
Like, oh, maybe it's another dialect. Maybe. She keeps trying like, oh, rah. It's hilarious. I can't even. I can't do it justice. There you go. Blah, blah.
Will you help us?
And they don't see it. It turns away. Right? It's like oh.
Then it comes up behind him.
And all of a sudden, it comes up behind them, and all of a sudden, it's like, whales don't eat fish; they eat krill. And all of a sudden, there's a bunch of krill. They're like,
yeah. Oh look, krill. So the whale opens up its mouth and puts them in his mouth and starts swimming. And so now Marlin's freaking out because they're stuck in a whale's mouth.
And he's swimming around. He's trying to get out, and he just keeps hitting into the teeth there, and it's like he's getting frustrated. He's like, I got to tell him how old sea turtles are. And, they have this discussion about like, well, I promised him nothing would ever happen to him, right? That's his whole thing, right? And it's like Dory's like, well, that's a silly thing to promise. Like, can't let nothing ever happen. Nothing would ever happen to them, right?
Yeah.
They're talking, and all of a sudden, they stop, right? It feels like kind of like how like a tractor trailer stops, right? Right? And then he starts draining the back of the mouth, right? And they understand. It's like the whale starts talking to them, right? And Dory's like, he says to move the back of the mouth. He's like, of course that's what he says. That means eating us.
He wants to eat us.
And then he's like,
and then he starts like rubbing up.
I was like, how does that taste?
He starts rubbing up against the taste buds. He's like, how's that taste, whale? So they move toward the back, and Marlin is hanging on one of the taste buds, and Dory's trying to go down the throat. But, yeah. And so Dory convinces Marlin to trust her.
And then he looks at her and he sees where she's been scarred from the jellyfish.
Yeah.
And like he's blaming himself for that. And he's like, okay, I'll trust you. And I guess part of the thing is like, if he would have trusted her about going through, right?
Yep. Instead of going over.
So it's like, okay. And then they drop, they go down. All of a sudden, he hears a rush of air come up, right? And whale shoots them through his blowhole.
Yeah. They became whale boogers.
Yeah. They get out, and they see Sydney all around them. Marlin's like, thank you. Dory's like, I wish I knew how to speak whale. Anyway, so then they're in the harbor. It's nighttime, right? It's nighttime when they get there. And they wake up, right? And then who we see first? We see Peach. She wakes up. It's like the sun is shining. The tank is clean. The tank is clean.
Tank is clean.
And the dentist installed a new filter.
Yeah. They notice that it's a new filter that cleans automatically and scans it every 5 minutes.
They're like, ooh. It gives the pH balance.
Yeah.
Right,
So he didn't. So the dentist didn't take them all out of the tank in order to clean it.
They hear the door open to the dentist's office, and they have the psycho music, and it's Darla. Like, oh.
Well, no. First, the door opens up, and it's a different kid. They think it's Darla.
That's right. It's a little kid. Yeah, it's a little boy.
It's just a little boy that's coming into the dentist. Like, oh, false alarm.
Yeah, and then it's Darla.
Yeah. And the next kid that comes in is Darla.
And Darla's appointment's first. Because when the mayhem ensues later, that poor boy will never go to the dentist again.
Nope.
Pretty certain.
Nope.
Right? So she comes in, and then they see her, and then Nemo gets this idea, well, I guess that doesn't happen first, right? But he will get the idea to play dead, right?
Yeah, so they're trying to hide Nemo from Darla.
That's right.
And,
that's right. They're trying to hide the dentist, but the dentist scoops him up and puts him in a little bag. Scoops him in a bag. And, he gets him in the net, and then the other fish go and they get in the net and they swim down. Which is important. This is important for later in the movie.
Yes.
Because they're too heavy. Net, and so he loses control of.
And he drops the net into the water.
And then that's when he scoops him up.
No, he just picks him in a baggie.
Gets the idea, okay, well, how do I just roll out of here?
Yeah.
Right. But then he sees that he gets a little bend and puts him in the bin.
So he can't roll out.
And that's when Darla shows up.
Yes. And so Darla goes in there to pick him up and looks at him. That's right. Darla gets in the chair, in the dentist chair.
She starts to get in the chair. And then we kind of cut back into Marlin and Dory, who are now in the harbor, and
they get scooped up by a pelican.
They get scooped up by a pelican, and they're like, I did not come all this way to become bird food, right? And then they're pulling on the pelican's tongue, right? And the other pelican's over there. It's like oh, he's already drunk.
Yeah. So the pelican starts to swallow him, and Marlin stops himself halfway down the pelican's throat. And so the pelican starts choking on him.
And then Nigel's there, and he sees this going on, and he's going to try to help him. And he finds out who the fish are. He finds out Marlin's one of them. Yeah, right.
So the pelican spits him out, and then
Dory, they're on the pier.
Yeah, they're on the pier, and Marlin yells, "I have to find my son Nemo." And Nigel hears that. He's like, "Oh, you must be Marlin." So he's trying to tell him to get in his mouth, and of course Marlin's like, "What? So you can eat us?" It's like, no, I know where your son is. I'm going to take you to him. You got to trust me.
Meanwhile, now there's the seagulls see them.
Yeah.
They want them. And, Nigel's like, hop in my mouth.
Stay real still. The only way you're going to survive this is get in my mouth.
So, and then when, it's like, that's when he tells me he can take him to Nemo, like, I hop in, right? And he has to swoop into the water
to pick up some water so that the fish can breathe.
Because they are fish.
Yeah. But what we mentioned earlier, like back when Marlin was first chasing after Nemo after the butt took him away. Yeah, I thought it was a nice touch that, he's popping his head out of the water trying to see the boat, and then he has to go back down in order to take a breath.
That's right. Good point. Yes.
He pops back up there. He's yelling for him, calling for him. Has to drop back underwater to take a breath. But anyway, yeah. So Nigel's flying.
The pigeons start, trying to chase them with, Nigel. Right?
Meanwhile, the dentist is going over, picks up the bag that Nemo's in to surprise Darla, and notices Nemo is belly up.
Yep. And then the other fish, they think he's dead too, but then he winks at them.
Yeah, he winks at him to let him know that he's alive. He
puts it behind his back so that Darla doesn't see it.
Yeah.
And so Nemo's idea is that, he's going to get flushed.
Yeah, he's going to get flushed.
And as they discussed earlier, like all
drains lead to the ocean. So while the dentist is walking toward the toilet to flush Nemo, that's when Nigel shows up with Marlin and Dory. And Marlin looks and sees Nemo belly up in the bag and thinks he's dead.
He thinks the worst, obviously.
Yeah.
Right? And then, there's... and then, he's like, you gotta fly me over there. And he's like, I can't fly over there. Fly over there. He's like, oh, yes, you can. Right. And
he pulls his tongue. And
you got a pelican flying in a dentist's office. And then all hell's breaking loose. And the boy's over there. He's wondering what's going on.
And the dentist drops the bag and it falls on the tray full of dentist instruments and breaks.
And even before that, that's when
Darla found it.
Darla found it. And she's shaking. It's like, Fishy, wake up.
Yeah, wake up, Fishy.
And then the birds attacking her at this point. Nigel's kind of attacking her at this point. And they kind of, that's what, like you said, like it drops.
Yeah, and that's when it drops on the thing. And the sharp dentist instruments pop it. So he's just laying there flopping around on this tray.
And then how does Nigel get done?
So
How does Gil get out?
So Gil gets them to get the volcano. He swims up to the edge of the other thing. They position the volcano to where he gets right in front of it and tells him to turn on the ring of fire.
The dentist has thrown out Nigel and Marlin and Dory. So it's just all the fish and the dentist and there and Darla.
Yeah. So he gets
Gil gets
him to turn on the ring of fire. So basically, it's like a cannon. Shoots him out of a cannon, and he lands right next to Nemo on the tray.
Yeah, and then. He flips and Nemo goes into the little wash spit basin.
Yeah, so he flips over and hits one of the tools and catapults Nemo into a little spit sink, and he goes down the drain. And then the dentist sees Gil on the tray, so he picks him up, puts him back in the tank. Yeah, and Nigel, he takes Marlin and Dory, puts them back in the ocean, tells them that he's very sorry because they all think that. Yeah, they all think that Nemo's dead.
So, meanwhile, then you get, finally, Nemo comes out of one of the pipes leading up to the ocean.
Yeah, but Marlin already started swimming back toward home.
Yes.
Think stayed around that area.
And he tells Dory, like, thank you, I never would have gotten this far without you. And then, like, you just saying, I think I need to go back by myself.
So Dory
just like, but, I don't feel lost with you. You're like family, she's kind of feeling sad, and so she's kind of wandering around all by herself. She's confused.
Nemo makes his way out of the pipe, and he hears Dory crying.
Yeah.
And so he goes and asks her if she's okay. Asks her if she needs help. And he tells her that he's looking for his dad. And she says that she's looking for her friend. And so Nemo decides, well, how about we look for them together?
Yep. And so, they're kind of swimming by themselves together, the two of them, and Marlin is doing his own thing. And
he's in the middle of another school of fish. And they catch up. They almost catch up to him. They call for him, and he hears them, and he hears Nemo.
Well, yeah, but even before that, she finally figures out, it's like a memory gets jogged back that, you're Nemo.
Yeah,
right?
You're Nemo. I've been traveling with your dad.
And they look for it, and and he hears the voice, and they get reunited, and they hug, and it's sweet.
And then this big net comes in.
Yeah, big fishing net comes in, right?
And it catches all these fish in this school, and Dory is stuck in the middle of them.
Yes.
And so she gets
all
caught
the fish,
in that too.
they're panicked.
Yeah.
And all doing their own different thing.
And Nemo gets an idea. He's like, we need to tell them all to swim down. And so they go up, they start telling some of the fish, tell everybody to swim down. Tell everybody to swim down. And they can't get to all of them because there's a lot of fish in there. So Nemo decides to go into the net.
Marlin at first doesn't think Nemo knows what to do.
Yeah.
And then, so you got to trust me, Dad.
And Nemo's like, you got to trust me. I know what I'm doing. I need to get in there so that I can tell them to swim down.
Yeah. And then they tell Dory and like have Dory kind of like relay it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's starting to swim down.
Yeah, so Marlin
Dory,
lets go of Nemo, lets him go up there.
She's like, just keep swimming. And like they're all starting, but it's still kind of going up a bit because you're seeing the top of it. You're seeing top of the fish all of a sudden, break the surface of the water, right?
Yeah. And so Nemo was able to convince enough of them to start swimming down, and the net stops going up, and instead it sort of starts going back down into the water.
It starts crawling, and the fishermen are like, "Oh, what's going on?" Right? And then just snaps, right? And the net breaks, and all goes kind of down to the seafloor, right? And the fish swim off, and they're looking around, and then Nemo is there, kind of still at the bottom, like he's kind of he kind of got hit with the force of everything going down.
Yeah.
Marlin kind of swims back up to him, and he's like, "Oh, it's okay. Daddy's here." You get back to the image of him holding as a little egg.
Yep.
And then Nemo wakes up, and he's like, "Daddy." And it's touching, because the last thing he said, before he
was, "I hate you, Dad."
"I hate you."
Yeah, he said, "I hate you, Dad," before he swam off to touch the butt.
He gets to say, "Dad, I don't hate you." Cue waterworks.
Yes, and then Marlin tells him, "Hey, I met a sea turtle. He was 150 years old."
But Tom is like, but Tommy's like,
Tommy said,
"Do
they
you
only
think I
live to
swam
100.
across the whole ocean to find you, not to tell you how old sea turtles are?" And then we get back into the end, and it's back to the
anemone,
the reef,
and this time it's time for school. But now it's Marlin who's all excited, waking up Nemo, and so he's excited to get him out there and get him with the rest of the class.
They have an exchange student, Squirt. Dory is also a student.
No, Dory's not a student. She's just there.
It's just there, yeah. He finally tells the sea cucumber and mollusk joke.
He tells it correctly. And the other fish start laughing. They're cracking up.
And they're about to swim off, and then Nemo tells Mr. Ray, "Oh, wait," and he comes back and gives a hug.
Wait, I forgot something. And he goes back and gives Marlin a big hug, and then Marlin's holding on a little too long. He's like, "Dad, you can let go now."
He swims off, and then Marlin says, "Bye, son," and then fades into the ocean water. Then you get a little bit of the music, and then you cut to one more scene.
Yep, it says the end, and then you cut to one more scene of the dentist holding on to his brand new tank cleaner, and it's somehow broken.
It broke. And then you see that they've all rolled out.
Yeah, he's looking for the fish, and there's just a trail of water going out the window. And you see these baggies with fish in them falling into the ocean. And they're just floating on top of the ocean because they're still in bags.
The last one to get across is Peach.
Yep. And it's like, that's the shortest red light I've ever seen.
They're all there, the bobbing in the water, and they're like, "Okay, what now?"
So they had this plan to get out of the water, but no plan on getting out of the bags. Nemo got lucky where it hit a sharp dentist tool and popped.
Maybe Nigel will come by and just bite each bag. I don't know. But that's the end of the movie. And then Bobby Darin's Beyond the Sea.
Yeah, Beyond the Sea plays.
Which will only be played in Lost.
Yes, I was going to say the same thing. Always makes me think of Lost.
Some fish movie.
Yep, it's the fish movie. It's the computer generated one. The computer one with all the fish. It's the song that plays during the credits.
That's Finding Nemo.
That's Finding Nemo, and good movie.
Box office success from 2003 for Pixar.
Yeah.
Like I said, a lot of their movies tend to be holiday season.
Yes, there's a handful that were summer though.
I think a good choice to be a summer movie. I think.
Yeah, I do too. I think so.
Yeah, Up and Ratatouille and Wall-E. I think those are all kind of summer. But the Ocean movie, it's an adventure. It's a good choice for the summer.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, Nemo is still probably one of the most beloved Pixar characters after like Woody and Buzz, probably.
Yeah, he is.
Everybody knows clownfish really well now because of
Nemo.
Finding Nemo. It's hard not to see a clownfish and say, "Oh, hey, that's Nemo." Maybe you say Marlin. I don't know. It could be either. So, yeah, it's a great movie. Even if you don't have kids, and you've never seen it, watch it. You're gonna love it. So,
yeah, I mean, I just watched it today for the podcast. I don't have any kids. I watched it by myself. When I first saw it in the theater, I watched it by myself.
And I thought, it was kind of a delayed sequel but I thought Finding Dory ended up being a pretty solid sequel too. Not nearly as good.
See, I haven't seen Finding Dory.
It's pretty good. So, they followed this one with The Incredibles. The Incredibles was the next one after.
That was a great movie.
So, it was kind of interesting because you had Toy Story, and then Bug's Life, you had Toy Story 2, and Monsters, Inc., right? And so I think Nemo's in some ways was kind of really helped cement them as kind of like the kings, I guess, at that time of animation.
Yep.
Because even like DreamWorks was angling in there with Shrek had been such a success for them. So yeah, Finding Nemo.
Definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it. I mean, it's hard to go wrong with Pixar.
No, it's funny. Like it really has entered into that like this kind of common cultural landscape now. Looking back at it 20 years later, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
21 years later, really, 2003. So.
Yeah. But yeah, so that is Finding Nemo. Any final thoughts on it, Tony?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, if you enjoy the podcast and you want to interact with us on social media, we are on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. Is Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. The and is spelled out A&D. It's not an ampersand like it is in the name of the podcast. But yeah, go there, give us a like, give us a follow. Let us know what you think of the podcast. We are also on X or Twitter. It is R&T Cinematic. And that, again, it's just different social media format. So let us know what you think if you're on there, if you're on X. We are also on Letterboxd for those of you who like to see how other people review movies. So if you want to check out, our reviews on movies, what we like, what we don't like, whatever, on Letterboxd, that is Cine Adventure or Cine Adventure, CINE Adventure. And come follow us on there. If you want to send us an email, our email address is robandtonycinematicadventure@gmail.com. Once again, the and is spelled out A-N-D. It's not an ampersand. And yeah, let us know. How do you feel about Pixar? Do you like Finding Nemo? Do you not like Finding Nemo? What's your favorite Pixar movie? What?
That's what I was going to say. Like, where is it ranked within the Pixar movies? Yeah. Like, that's always a good conversation topic. Is kind of what's your top 4? What's your top 5? Like, who's your favorite Pixar character? So. Who's your favorite Nemo character? Yeah,
just let us know what you think. If there's any other Pixar movies you think we should do on the podcast, let us know which ones you would like us to do. Or just any other movies in general that you want us to do. We have a long list of movies that we put together that is a constantly evolving list. And we are more than happy to put some more movies on there if there's some that you think we should be discussing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just let us know. Go on your favorite podcast app, wherever you listen to us. If you enjoy the show, give us a like, follow, subscribe, give us a good review, a good rating. That's how we move up in the standings and in the search and everything on all these apps so that we can allow more people to be able to find us and listen. And hopefully we can get some more like-minded people who enjoy our discussions.
Yep.
So next time we are going to be continuing with our summer blockbusters. We're going to do...
We'll go from a kid-friendly Finding Nemo
to
the not so kid friendly
to
The Rock.
An R-rated, The Rock. Michael Bay directed.
Nicolas Cage,
classic. Sean Connery.
Michael Bay. Who would have asked someone in 1996 how his career would go after The Rock? Anyway.
Yep, we'll get to that. But yeah, so The Rock is next. That classic Nicolas Cage, Sean Connery, Ed Harris, Michael Biehn movie. And it's going to be a fun one. I'm so glad we're doing The Rock next. I love that movie. It's going to be a great episode. So join us next time for The Rock. We will see you then.